Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Crystal, and I'm happy to be here to share with you my celebration of 1 year since I returned from Spain. I went to Western Europe for my first sabbatical approximately, I guess, a year and a half ago. I was there 4.5 months. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the step by step process I use to plan and book travel, international solo travel in particular. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my trip to Southeast Asia, which starts on Tuesday, December 2nd, as well. So, welcome to the channel. I'm Dr. Crystal, and this is On Sabbatical with Dr. Crystal, where we talk about all things slow travel, solo travel, career transitions. I'm sorry, I got a little bit of a frog in my throat, and I'm just realizing now that I need to adjust this a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, so if you are watching in the comments, if you would please make a comment and say hello and tell me where you're watching from, where in the world you're watching from. I invited quite a people to this live stream because this is the year that we make plans. Well, not this is the year, this is the season that we make plans for 2026. I mean, the holiday season tomorrow will be after we eat the bird for those people who celebrate the season of Thanksgiving and have those traditions around sitting around the table eating. We will be talking about what it is that our goals are, what we've been doing since the last time we gathered around, and often the time to talk about what your travel dreams are. I know a lot of times I would be one of the people that would say, I wanted to go somewhere, and then here comes another year around, and I haven't actually been anywhere. So hopefully you will gain something here as we talk about the step by step guide and a new service that I'm offering for slow travel. So I have about maybe 30 minutes of discussion planned for today, and I'm really excited to spend this time with you and to have your questions answered at the end if there are questions. I want to start out by acknowledging, I guess my audience tends to be women who are in transition, women over 40, women over 50, often professional women of color and who felt disillusioned and disrespected with their careers. That was me. And just really want more fulfillment, more fun, and more ease in their life moving forward. So, as I mentioned, I am celebrating the 1 year anniversary of my first sabbatical. And I think because I've been back a year, I think I have a better understanding of what went well and what went wrong because I have some emotional distance from some of the experiences that I had on that first sabbatical. I am a believer in slow travel, even though I didn't know what slow travel was. Strangely enough, I actually thought when I planned my trip to Western Europe, which by the way, I spent a year planning, I thought I knew what slow travel was, and I thought I was slow traveling. Because to me, at that point, slow travel was basically spending a large part of time in a specific area. So technically, I left for London and I spent 2 full months in England. But in those 2 months, I was in 8 different locations because I booked 8 different house sits. 2 of them were repeats. So I went to London. I flew into London. I came back to London for house sit, went somewhere else, and came back to London for house sit. So in those 8 weeks, I spent a lot of time on trains and buses and in transition. So when you do that, you don't get a chance to really rest and settle in and get grounded. So, but before I get into all of that, let me just say that I want to ask you, where are you hoping to travel in 2026? And I'll check a few of the answers when we get to the Q&A space. And I see a couple people have put something in the chat already to tell me where they're watching from. So let me quickly see who's in the room and say welcome. Why is it not Should I whisper backstage? Okay. Public chat. Here we go. All right, Gianna, thank you for stopping by. Okay, in Arizona. I think I know who that is. I'm not going to call everybody out. Good afternoon. Okay, I'm not sure who the other people are, but thank you so much for watching, and I'm so glad to have you. And let's get into it. So, please, if you are watching, even in the replay, tell me where you want to travel in 2026. Like, what is your travel dream destination? And I would love to know. I think we, as women of a certain age, we want to go everywhere and we deserve to be the places that we want to see. So, what are my blueprints? So, I want to tell you the short version. And like I said, I'm developing a whole course. I've said this in previous episodes. And what I want to do now is just talk about the steps in the planning, and I'm going to go quickly to that to tell you what the steps are in terms of an overview. And later I'll share my screen and go in depth into one of the steps. So the first thing I think is really important is for you to define whatever is going to be your fulfillment factor. I would call that as the anchor for your budget. So for example, one of the things that's really important to me is that I have time to rest and spend time in local markets, that I have time to cook, explore new ingredients, take a cooking class, that I have time to walk on or near water or in a park if it turns out that I'm not in a coastal location. I have absolutely prioritized beaches and coastlines in my previous planning. So, what is the non negotiable daily, weekly spending limit before you look at destinations? So, from a budget anchor, in order for me to be able to stay in a coastal town and near the beach or on the water, that means I'm going to prioritize what it's going to cost for my lodging. So that means I'm not going to do as many experiences. There have been trips that I've taken where I was in a place where the lodging was so affordable that I was still able to do Airbnb type experiences, which to me are a little bit more pricey. Worth it, and very worth your bang for your buck when I look at another area of what's important to me. And so, and the reason why you want to look at your non-negotiable spending limit before you look at destinations is not because you want to be focused on affordability, but that part of why we're traveling is that we want to be able to embrace ease and we want to be able to relax. And that anchor is going to ensure that you are in a place where things will be fulfilling and stress free. In fact, one of the reasons I went to Europe first is I knew that would be probably the most expensive, except for the United States. It's one of the most expensive regions in the world. And the trip for the airfare was high, and to stay and do anything in London is high. And I knew I was going to be in London a couple of days. I flew in and out of London, so I had hotel stays, short ones, on the front end and back end of my house sitting. But also, I chose to house sit also as a budget anchor. It was going to give me community and put me in situations where I was going to be in the context of a community. So the family that you're staying with tends to tell you these are the neighbors. They might introduce you to people. I've had them, have dinner with me so that I understand kind of like their culture and their daily habits, not just of their pets, but their home and their routine. One person was nice enough to give me a gift weekly pass to the yoga studio where she went, and I met a lot of her friends there, and they also kind of loved on me and took good care of me, and that was really special. And that happened in England as well. I mean, that incident that I shared was in England. So the second step that's really important out of 7 is to think about this idea that the purpose of a sabbatical or slow travel is to slow down. So how do you slow down? So from a budgeting standpoint, that means you're going to stay in one place for 2 to 4 weeks. Even though Airbnb homes, that's my preference or has been, gives you a discount at 28 days. I've often stayed places 20, 21, 22 days. And especially if the discount they're giving is, 2 to 5%, which is, in my mind, not a big sacrifice for them. I would ask them, would they be willing to knock a percent or two off this is before I book, if I book with them. And I've done that a couple of times when I've had 21 and a 24 day stay. And they completely did. It's easier, or at least I feel like it's easier. I feel like it's a better hack when you're dealing with a corporate booking. I prefer not to do corporate bookings, but I absolutely have done it with an individual, which is one of the reasons why I now probably wouldn't do it with an individual, because you're basically taking money out of another family's pocket. But as I said, Europe was expensive, and I did it more in Europe. I haven't felt the need to do it other places. I did it one other time, but for a reason that I get into in another video. It was corporate owned, and there were some things, some amenities that were not going to be available while I was there, and I had found that out through alternative means. So, slowing down for me means that I'm going to be near a park in a walkable neighborhood. Transportation is going to be accessible. So, either Uber, Bolt, which is a Uber like service that's available in Europe. And although Uber was available for me in Central America, as well as it was available in Mexico, I will be using something called Grab for Southeast Asia. I downloaded the app actually this morning. That was on my countdown to-do list to get familiar with the Grab app. So what does slowing down look like for you? For me, as I said, slowing down means being able to walk to the beach or on the beach or in a park, and to do that fairly regularly. It also means being in a climate where it's going to be walkable several times a week. So long-term stays unlock massive discounts on accommodations because monthly rates can be as much as 20 or 30% off of the daily or weekly rates for corporate stays, and it reduces the number of transport days where you have to fly or be on a bus or be on a train. I will say also that I got a monthly pass, not a monthly pass, I got some type of discounted pass, both in England and in Spain, which also saved me a great deal. And so I ended up doing a lot of inter-country travel utilizing Omio, which is a train bus travel booking app. So as I said, I have another detailed checklist that I will be providing for people who are participating in the offer. And when those links are available, I will share them in future episodes. They're not available right now. Well, the offer is available, but the resources that I'm giving to the people who buy the offer are not yet available, but will be before the weekend is over. So that's what I wanted to say. So the second step is just embracing this idea of slowing down and the hacks associated with those. And then the third step, I think is really important in my blueprint for, savvy travel for savvy slow travelers, is to be able to select a dollar maximizing destination. And that means we're going to use a tool which is called the Earth Awaits, in order to see where our currency is going to stretch and where the cost of living factors are going to stretch. So you'll be buying groceries. Again, you'll have the transportation costs, you'll have the lodging costs, you'll have the experience costs, eating out in a restaurant, attending cultural events, that type of thing. A lot of free activities is also something I look for in a city that I go to. You want your money to work for you. So not only do you want a low cost of living, but you also want a place where the dollar is at least not at a deficit, which is harder and harder to find lately. And just in the 15, 16 months that I've been traveling, it's harder. So number 4 is that you want to master the accommodation strategy, which I talked about before. So this is a travel hack that I have not taken advantage of because I mostly house sit and I mostly do long-term stays in Airbnbs. However, it's possible on some of the Facebook groups to coordinate with other expats and slow travelers who are in accommodations and say, hey, I'm going to be in such and such a region. I'm going to be there for 3 months or 2 months or 1 month. If anybody has a property that they're willing to sublet, please talk to me. And I know people have gotten amazing deals from that. People that I've talked to in the Exodus Summit WhatsApp group, as well as the Facebook groups. And so prioritize looking at long-term rentals. So if you're a slow traveler and let's say you love the region of Thailand, so maybe you and 2 other people have a property that you rotate around, but there are a couple months that it might be open. So that's a way that you can be intentional about having that space in advance. Always rent, I do, with the kitchen or laundry facilities because I know that I love to cook, even in a place where it's more expensive to cook. There's some places where street food is so affordable that going to the grocery store and buying things is going to cost you more. But I think if you're a person who wants to eat a little healthier, you know you're not going to want street food and restaurant food 7 days a week. A kitchen will save you a lot of terms of time, health, energy, and then laundry service. There are also places like when I was in Mexico where I could have gotten the laundry done for the cost of buying the materials to do the laundry, the cleaning products, at least the ones that I like. And I think they did a really good job. So that's another reason why you want to be thinking about how do you master your accommodations in a way that help you save money in other areas. My fifth tip and step on the blueprint is to build a dedicated joy and ease budget line. And that means you want to think about experiences. Like I said, for me, the markets and the festivals, looking in that country. So, for example, I know I'm going to be in Bangkok. I'm going to be in Bangkok for 6 weeks, starting December 5th. I arrive. My host, who's I'm going to be staying in someone's home that a friend that I met online. So she is going to be leaving, and so I'll be there by myself. But I know I'm going to be there over the holidays. So I'm looking at what is going on in the month of December and January before she gets back, so that I can every week have one or two anchor activities and experiences. And they can be guided tours, they can be things that are self-directed, or they can be things that I'll be intentional about joining WhatsApp groups to say, hey, what's going on in the area. For example, when I got to Guadalajara, a friend who I knew who had moved there, she sent me 6 different WhatsApp groups around all types of hobbies and interests that we shared together that she thought I would enjoy, to meet people. And it was such a blessing because I actually made friends. So even when she was out of town, because I was in Guadalajara for 2 months, when she was out of town, I was able to still have relationships with people that I could go to dinner or get a coffee or attend a walking tour with. So the goal for this section is to think about, again, fulfillment, not depriving yourself because you're on a budget. And it ensures that you're not cutting corners on the activities that are going to bring you the most joy and help you find like what's going to reset you in order to come back to the US feeling like rejuvenated. So for me personally, that meant I did some day trips that were really expensive. When I was in Panama, I booked a day with the Black expats in Panama, day to cultural Cologne Day, but basically like a cultural experience. And it was phenomenal. It was expensive, but it was worth every penny. And I really am so glad that I did that. In fact, I would do it again. I had such a good time. So the sixth step I want to share is conquering your currency conversion fees. And with that, I would say your fear of doing math and pulling out your calculator and conversion app so that you know what you're paying for something in US dollars. This is something that I've gotten stronger at. I would say that when I was in Spain and the euro was stronger, much stronger than the US dollar when I was there. So there were a lot of times that I probably made bad decisions because I was guessing instead of pulling out my currency converter. And the other thing that's not on here that's sort of similar to this, that is a source of fear, is when you're going to a place where English is not widely spoken, or it's only spoken in sort of the touristy areas or the expat friendly areas, which are by nature generally more expensive. So also you want to make sure that you're conquering any basic language that you're going to need as far as meeting people, greeting people, asking for help. And that will also alleviate a lot of fear because you'll be able to at least say the basics of I speak. So for me, initially when I would first go to Spanish speaking countries, and for people who don't know, I've been studying Spanish for 4 years. I started on Duolingo. I had 2 different tutors. Actually, I've had a total of 3, but before I went to Mexico, I made sure that I doubled down on tutoring twice a week for Spanish language learning. And as a result of that, I did feel really, really comfortable in sort of my basic transactional experiences. So am I fluent in Spanish? No. In fact, I probably am another 4 years from being fluent in Spanish. However, I will say that when it comes to my fear of speaking out in Spanish, I'm able to do my research, practice my conversation that I need to have. So let's say I'm going to a post office and I need to ask a question about mailing a package or receiving a package. I had that happen when I was in Spain, actually. I had to go to the post office. And basically, I practiced with my tutor. I practiced with my Airbnb host. I was in an independent unit, but anyway, he knew I was learning Spanish and that I needed to get this errand done. So he and I role played. I've done the same thing with people when I was going to a market and I knew I needed to practice my negotiation skills. So step 6 is, conquer those fears, and especially the ones around currency conversion and language translation. And then step 7 for today is going to be think about your financial safety net. A lot of people ask me questions about, as a solo female traveler over 50, how am I comfortable going to these different places? Well, with the exception of Europe and now Asia, every place I've been, even at the last minute, I could get a plane ticket home for about $1,000. On a good day, I spent $400 round trip for my Mexico ticket in and out of Mexico City, and I spent about $400 round trip for my ticket in and out of Panama, and Costa Rica was the other place that I went, that I purchased a round trip ticket. So I would say that, even if something goes down, you need to make sure you have money to get a plane ticket home. So to me, that is my idea of, I think her name is Adelia Bourget. She's a financial educator, a former retired teacher, middle school teacher on YouTube. And I love, she says, what is your, basically your, oh shoot money, except she doesn't say shoot. I need to get the H out. So I feel like as long as I have money for a plane ticket home, I'm going to be fine. The other thing that sometimes happens, which means you need a sabbatical safety net, is let's say you're not just enjoying what you thought you would enjoy. Like, give yourself permission to ask for a refund, cut the trip short, and move on. So one of the things that I talked about in this week's sabbatical article that came out on yesterday, Substack, too many S's. So if you're following me on Substack, you've already seen the article I wrote yesterday, which was promoting the offer for Black Friday. When I was in Valencia, I was headed to Valencia 3 days into the torrential flood / downpour that they had. And so because of that, I was concerned about not just my safety, but the safety of the people in the community that I was going to visit. And I was in a situation where I was staying in an Airbnb property where I had a room with a private bath, sort of like an ensuite in someone's home. And so I was so blessed that she called me to make sure I was okay, to see where I was, because she thought I was actually flying in to Valencia, which was not the case. I've said this in other videos. You can go back and look at my European, some of my European vlogs. Or I guess I did one long one when I came back, was where I probably mentioned this. But I flew into Madrid, took a train to the coast, started in Barcelona, and then took the train going gradually south along the Mediterranean coast all the way to Alicante. I was supposed to go all the way into Portugal, but I never made it to Portugal. So I was basically getting ready to get on the train to come into Valencia. Well, actually, it was the day before that I heard it on the news. I was at the local bakery. I stayed in this beautiful fishing village called Mencofa. And there's more on that also online. But as I was sitting at the bakery having my coffee, I was drinking a flat white. I learned about coffee drinks since I started drinking flat whites. And that was really cool. But then all of a sudden, people were like stopping their walk. They were walking their dog or doing whatever they do. And I guess they heard about it, but they wanted to get near a TV to see what was going on. And they showed the most horrifying images, almost like a horror show, where you see complete roadways basically falling and collapsing and bridges collapsing because of the floodwaters. But anyway, so you can go to my Substack to check that out. I actually have a link to my Substack that I will share later. And so I bring that up to say that a friend who knew that I was traveling said, "Hey, I heard about what's going on in Valencia. I don't know if you have money to get out. I just want to, do something to help." And I thought that was really sweet. And then my host called me to see if I was okay. And then when I got there, even though she was grieving, she was an older woman in her late 70s. She was so compassionate and specific around things that I might want to think about doing to change my itinerary to still be able to see some of Valencia that was not in the area that was impacted by the floods. What ended up being the most complicated thing, honestly, when I left Valencia was getting out of Valencia, because it was, I understand, months after the floods before all the normal transportation routes were accessible again, because roads and trains had been collapsed. So I ended up having to take a bus, not a train, to my next destination, and I actually only got to stay in Valencia. I made a decision to stay in Valencia for 1 week versus 2 weeks because I really didn't want to be, there was just so much. I think at that time we didn't know how many people had died, and during the week that I was there, we found out it was over 200 people. And I think now, when I looked at the record, the historical record just a few days ago in preparation for my article, I found out it was 220 people whose lives were lost, and thousands of people were severely injured, and millions of dollars of property was also destroyed by what is being cast as maybe a global warming incident. I don't want to get into that because it's not my expertise, it's not my ministry. But long story short, they had never experienced anything even close to that. So their disaster preparedness response as a country was left wanting and exposed. So anyway, getting back to finishing up that step-by-step process, you want for sure to give yourself permission when things aren't going the way you thought they were going to go, because sometimes you don't know, because it's your first time traveling, either a first-time international traveler, a first-time solo traveler, or your first time to that specific region or country. So for that reason, I would say give yourself permission to be flexible and to be impulsive in a way that's smart, and also ask other people who've traveled to that area so that they will be able to also advise you on what are going to be sort of the best ways for you to navigate whatever is going on. What I would still say I am I'm an experienced international traveler because I've been to over 20 cities in over 6 countries. I would say there's still so much for me to learn because I also am exploring brand new regions. So the things that worked for me in Mexico may not work as well as they worked before. The same thing with Britain. Even though they speak English, they use words that I wasn't familiar with to describe things than we do in the US. So there were still things that were lost in translation. I expect the language barrier to be one of the biggest issues that I'm going to have. But any great chapter of travel starts with a great plan. And so I had asked you earlier to tell me where you're hoping to travel in 2026. So I want to go quickly to that chat and see what are some of the places. And so we've talked a little bit about my stress-free sabbatical steps. So I'm glad that you've had a chance to hear that. And I want to talk a little bit about solo travel and what makes it really significant, at least in my experience. So let me go back to the public chat. We said we've got, okay, so Baby Steps is joining from Chicago. Welcome, welcome. I think this is Gianna. She wants to go to Senegal. Yes, the continent of Africa is definitely the center point of my 2027 travel. Everybody keeps trying to tempt me to go to Africa on the way back from Asia, but because I want to do Asia justice, I want to stay. I'm already doing 3 countries in Southeast Asia. I think I'm going to be ready to come home after that. I'm going to be tired. And I want to give the continent of Africa what it deserves as well. Plus, it's not a cheap, if you look at my rationale that I discussed earlier, it's really not a cheap place to go. I really want to go to South Africa. I really want to go to Ghana. And I have some friends in Nigeria as well that would love for me to visit them. So I think if I plan to go for 6 months, I'm going to be able to spread it out in terms of a month or 2 in each country that I'm interested in going. But Senegal and West Africa and even East Africa, I mean, truth be told, I just want to go everywhere. Let's see. So I think this is Althea wants to go to the UK, Germany, and Thailand. Yeah, I want to go to Germany as well. I want to go back to the UK. And let's see. Hi from Chicago. Okay, so nobody else has put in where else they want to go. So the only thing that I would say here about the thing, everything that has been listed here, I would say is safe. So I want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to be a solo traveler, and some tips about conquering the intimidation factor of international solo traveler. And I had a colleague this morning in our online community talk about some fear or some intimidation that she initially felt. She's not slow traveling, but anytime we do something that we haven't done before, there's going to be anxiety. So, like, that's a natural human emotional response. The psychologist in me would say it's no different from the first time you buy a house, the first time you buy a car, the first time you, I don't know, even learning to speak Spanish in the US to other people that I know who I know are fluent is sometimes intimidating. So, on the one hand, we have to normalize that fear is a natural, healthy response, and it shows that we're alive and that we're human. On the other hand, there is fear and then there's intimidation. So, how do we not let what a normal, healthy level of fear cause the intimidation level, which is going to stop us from pursuing whatever the action is that we desire to do? And so I try to trade off with the fulfillment factor. So to me, the rewards of conquering my fear is that I'm going to build some incredible relationships that there's no way I would build if I don't get on the plane. And I want to share, what I'm feeling right now. So I'm 6 days from getting on the longest flight of my life so far. I'm actually flying to Istanbul, and I broke it up in two sections on purpose because I know how I feel. I used to actually be afraid to fly. I had a season of anxiety in my life maybe 30 years ago when I was in my 30s. I'm about to turn 60. And to be honest with you, I started taking Xanax when I would get on the flight just in case I had a panic attack so that I would be able to calm down, because I'd had an incident where I wanted to deplane when the plane was taxiing off. So that was, I guess, a specific low point in my anxiety journey. But what I learned from that experience, even in facing our anxiety, is we have to be very, very intentional about giving ourselves the support that we need. I'm also a person of faith. And so I have a wonderful prayer partner. I pray leading up to it that there won't be any incidents. I pray for myself. I pray for the flight crew. I pray for everybody that's involved in travel, that's around me, because you see all these videos of crazy people doing stuff. So I think being very intentional about activating those spiritual resources so that I am calm. And when I am calm, I can make better decisions about how to take care of myself, how to support myself, and how to support other people that might be in need of support while I'm traveling. So, slow travel allows you to really go after and be intentional about the things that are going to bring you joy and you peace and you ease as you travel. Because the whole method behind sabbatical travel is the word Sabbath, right? It's a period of rest and reflection that's going to energize you and prepare you for whatever is in the next chapter. So that's why I'm very consistent about calling this a sabbatical journey. It's not a career break, although I am early retired and likely I will enter paid employment in some way, shape, or form again. But truthfully, the main purpose of my travel as a sabbatical traveler is to be following sort of that time in my life where I'm really listening and in tuning to what I need, what I want, what God wants me to do, what I want to hear and experience, for my future. So that to me is the profound fulfillment of slow travel. And it's also a great place when you need to do a lifestyle overhaul, because that way you're not coming back tired and exhausted. The alternative to sabbatical travel or slow travel is going to be fast travel. And honestly, one of the things that I didn't know at the time is the way I was approaching slow travel was also from this idea of a checklist. I would go online, I would get all these lists of itineraries, mostly. I don't know. It could just be me. A lot of the people who were producing those itineraries were like a third my age, not even half my age. They're in my 20s. So even when I travel with my daughter, because I did make a trip to Europe with my daughter one time, we went to England, in fact. And she's been to France a couple times, and but we've never been together. You know, she likes to see and do a lot of things. So she planned an itinerary and she sent it to me, and it had like 4 things per day on it. I was like, "There's no way in heck I'm going to be able to do 4 things in a day." One day we did 3 things, but one of the things in the middle was like have lunch at a famous cafe. Well, we had not lunch, we had tea. We had tea in at Harrods, which was fun. So it was a thing that was a cultural itinerary thing, but it was also very relaxing. So I could do 4 things a day at a spa. That would work for me. So one of the budget secrets I would say also is that you want to find your next spark. You want to do the things that are going to allow you to sit and journal, sit and pray, sit and meditate, walk. It doesn't have to be sit, it could be walking, to find your next spark in life. So one quick thing I want to share with you before I go into my Q&A and share my Black Friday offer. Actually, this is a good place. I'm supposed to do some commercials, which is, I'm sorry, I was supposed to show you this link. So I always forget to do this till it's almost to the end. So if you find this video helpful, I would appreciate if you would click the like button. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, it would mean so much to me if you would become a subscriber and join our community. And that will then allow you to be notified when I'm coming up for another event. The other thing that you could do to support the channel is join me on Substack. On Substack, I have free content. Actually, everything is free content. I have a paid subscriber now. Actually, only a week ago, I got my first paid subscriber. So there is a place where you can support the channel financially on Substack if you feel led to do so. But it's a place where I take a deep dive of things I'm covering on YouTube and share things. So like the checklist that I just talked about, I'm going to refine that, and that will eventually show up. Probably since I'm traveling next week, I don't know if it'll happen for 2 weeks, but it'll show up on Substack as a checklist. So that would be a place that you could see it. So keep that in mind, or a version of the one that will be available in the course of. And then the other thing that I want to do is share my screen. Okay. So this was something I probably should have shown you when I was talking about the 7 steps. But this is a website that I love, and it's called The Earth Awaits. And so I wanted to share this by way as an illustration of The Earth Awaits is a place where you find out where you're going to go and what you can do there. So this is the map with the criteria that I put in when I got ready to go to plan the trip to Western Europe. And on the Spain leg, I knew that my England time was going to be basically structured by the house sits and the sequence of the house sits. So I'm not going to go into that today because I think I also have an older video that I can link to that for people who are interested. But basically, this is how I knew that I wanted to fly in and out of Madrid, because that was going to be the cheapest of the tickets. And then I don't know if this is going to, if you can see me, I'm basically using the toggle button to draw the little hand from Madrid, Spain over to Barcelona. And this is how I ended up going to France, because I spent 2 weeks in Barcelona in the suburbs. Let me just expand this out, see if I can find the place that I went. I didn't get to go to Zaragoza, but I was supposed to. That's why it's a check. So I logged into my account here. So, so somewhere in the northern suburbs, and a friend who had been to Barcelona says, well, you need to get on the bus and go up to southern Spain because it'll be so close. And I had no idea that, I knew that Barcelona was on the coast, but I had no idea it was that close to France. So I did. I took a 4-hour trip and I went here to Montpellier, France. And then I took it was a round trip bus. And then I came back to Barcelona, stayed in a hotel a couple of days. And then I started my whole journey south. And I went to 4 different places on the way. Mancofa is just north of Valencia. I also spent time in Valencia. We've already talked about that. And then I also went to Alicante. And I went to one more place that was south of Alicante. I think, let me see if I can find it here. Nope, I don't see it. I did go to a winery, this Elite area. I went to a winery there, wine tour. A friend of mine, Darlene, and her daughter came to visit me, and we did a yoga retreat in the city. But for some reason, the name escapes me. But I found it on Book Retreat. So one of the things that I like to do is book a retreat to also give some structure to a long trip. And I'm actually researching those on in Thailand. And when I get to Thailand, I get settled. I'm going to do a live stream, and maybe I'll demonstrate or record that process and make a YouTube short. So this is how I decide once I get to a country, what are the cities I want to say and what's stay in and what's going to be the route. And so now let me go back to here. Hopefully you'll still be able to see this. So this is the homepage to the Earth Awaits. And this link is in my travel guide, and I am probably going to do a video just demonstrating how I use this. So I put my budget in. I mean, if you have, $15,000 for a trip, you can put that in there. But my monthly budget is $2,500, and I like to put to say $1,200 to $1,500 for lodging. And then you can also say whether how much of a budget travel or luxury travel you are. So when I went to Europe, I think my goal was actually $3,500 a month because I had saved an additional I think it was $12,000. Plus I had my last check, and my pension was going to come in. So during the time that I was there, the maximum amount that I could spend was, between say $15,000 and $20,000. But I didn't want to go to Spain at zero, so of course I didn't do that. So then you tell it, so I'm a solo traveler, say I have one. When I was in Mexico, I told it two because my son was traveling with me. And so that's a way that you can accommodate the budget on the Earth Awaits. And then you tell it what type of apartment. I'm a city center girl. I always want to be where I can walk outside and go to a restaurant, a cafe, a 7-Eleven, get some water, get some ice, whatever. But you can do 2-bedroom city center, 3-bedroom city center. You can be outside the city center. And then you tell it what kind of lifestyle you want. And I used to put lean and modest. And then in the Exodus Summit, I watched a video, a training that Rashida did, and I've started putting ample. Because the thing is, you can put ample, and then you can always decide you don't want to spend that much and be more budget friendly on that thing. But if you put ample, you're going to have some wiggle room. You don't always have to spend what it says it's going to spend. I always put moderate for crime rate. Some people say any because obviously this is subjective. I don't know if you know it, but U.S. is definitely one of the places that has the most crime of any industrialized nation. We have the most people in prison, the most people arrested, and don't even get me started. So right now we even have more than we would normally have because of what's going on with immigration patrol. So, and then pollution, if you have maybe asthma or health condition, you want to go low or very low. I usually put moderate. I just assume that's in the middle. So that's why I put moderate. And because I lived in Chicago for 25 years, I feel like Chicago is one of the places that gets billed as a place with high crime. And I lived through it and was happy. Never, actually I don't want to get into that story. Let me stay on track. So I was a victim of a crime one time, but it wasn't in Chicago. So I'll just say that. So I do think use your best judgment at where you're going to be comfortable. And so when I did this the first time, I did it for Europe because I was going to Europe. When I went to Mexico, I did it for North America, and I put exclude United States. I haven't been to South America or Africa, but I could. So now I'm going to set it up for Asia just to show you a little bit for what I did to find out the 3 countries I wanted to go to. So I already did this part. Sorry. My budget, actually, I changed my budget. Okay, so I'm going to put my budget down to 2,000 because basically I was like, okay, I want to be able to save money. I do not want to spend a lot of money. So I'm going to do this. So it's just doing Asia, and then I'm going to sort it by budget low to high. I usually do it the other. So this is the monthly cost of living in different places in Asia. And because I don't know where any of these places are, you could just look at the pictures and say, oh, that looks pretty. Maybe I should go to Antalya in Turkey. Maybe I should go to, I don't even know how to pronounce that one. It's a lot of Turkey, Malaysia, Philippines. So what I did then was I picked the map, and then I went down to, where did I go? Where's the map? Here we go. I want to focus on this part. Okay, it's giving me the cities. I knew I was going to Thailand because, again, my anchor is that I have a friend who moved there in August and she's working there, and I knew that I wanted to spend considerable amount of time with her. So actually, so if you notice, because of the way I set the pollution, the Vietnam and Thailand are not showing up here. But in general, which is, they are considered having, they have like a burning season where it's really hard to breathe and really hard to see. And so therefore, Thailand and Vietnam didn't come up. However, I am also going to Malaysia, so let's take a look at Malaysia. My daughter's trying to convince me that if she comes, she wants to go to Singapore. She's always wanted to go there, so I might end up in Singapore, even though that wasn't on my original list. So Phuket, oh, that is in Thailand. So there is a Thailand. Phuket is on there. But if you notice, Phuket is very far from the rest of the country. It's down in this peninsula part. So that's one of the reasons why it's not being dinged for the pollution factor. And then here, Penang, Malaysia, and Kuala Lumpur. So I will be in Kuala Lumpur, which is one of the reasons why my daughter was suggesting we go down here to Singapore. But notice nothing in Singapore came up. So I'm going to go back to do one more thing before I wrap up and start the Q&A, which is change this to a little more. I'm going to change it to just under 3,000. Let's see what else puts up. And then under pollution, I'm going to put any, and crime rate, I'm going to leave it moderate. Search. And so it's going to give me another list. And I am this time, quality of life, high to low. Okay, it automatically does high to low, I think. I'm going to again do low to high. I just like to see what's here. So notice $400 a month. So Asia is one of the only places in the world where you're going to get a $500 monthly cost of living. And look how many places are under $1,000 a month. I mean, just look at how many places there are. So in another video, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the earth weights once I get to Asia and I have a little bit more time. And now I'm going to do, so for the expensive one, I was going to say, so Japan is on here, which is surprising. I've heard Japan is expensive. South Korea is on here. The UAE is on here. The Philippines. Okay, so now we're at the section of the budget, which is where I want to be, just under $2,000. We've got Georgia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, China, Malaysia. So here's Kuala Lumpur. So this is, if you notice, I've already starred this. It's a place in Turkey that I starred. And let's see if there's anything else that I've already starred. I don't see anything. Okay, so so that's basically what I wanted to demonstrate, is a part of my research for determining, once I know that I want to be, for example, near a coast, near a city market, near a river, someplace to have water activities, great hotels, great cost of living. If the average cost of living is $500 a month or $1,000 a month on my budget of $2,000 per month, I'm going to be able to do all the things that I want to do at an ample level of a lifestyle. So let me go back here. All right. Oh, wow. It says picture in picture is closed. I don't know. Were you guys not able to see while I was talking all that time? Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. And I didn't see that message. Okay, so let's see what's in the comments here. If you have any questions or thoughts, hello from Florida, Dr. Steven. So good to see you. Baby steps, moving to Jamaica in January. Oh, yeah, that sounds wonderful. I think I want to go to Jamaica also, but I haven't spent any considerable time there. I don't think a few hours on a cruise ship counts. Research about the place helps me, including groups and making connections in the place I'm going, for sure. Thailand and Ghana, thank you. Okay, if you have any questions that you would like me to answer, feel free to put those in the chat while I am wrapping up. I have some notes here for myself to give, call to actions at the end. I want to tell you about the offer that I have for Black Friday. And I'm excited about sharing with you guys something that I am excited to, a service that I'm excited to offer. for solo travelers or people who are new to solo travel. Maybe you're an experienced traveler, but you've never been anywhere by yourself. Maybe you are an experienced traveler, but you've never stayed a month. The idea of spending 1 month in one place in one city really, is a little bit intimidating because it is a different, you're basically like a part-time local. I mean, not really, but in general, you're approaching living like a local. You're going to make real relationships with local people if you are traveling at that area. You're going to have to find your friend and find your people. So the Black Friday offer is something that I came up to help people who are feeling intimidated by planning a trip, where I would help you develop, you would answer questions on a questionnaire, and then you would be able to, actually, I have a media for this, and just realize I'm telling you stuff that I don't need to tell you because I have, see if I can find it, what I uploaded. Only you can see. I don't know what's going on here. I'm trying to preview the picture, but nothing's coming up. My technical skills with are at. So let's see. I'm gonna share my screen again. Let's see if this will work. Okay, I'm just going to pull this up. So this is an image from Canva. I hope you can see it. Let me know in the chat if you can see it. So it's called the Smart Start Travel Guide. And its idea is for you to be able to travel longer for less. So it's really encouraging you to consider slow travel. And at the QR code is just a link to be able to pay the $97. And if you purchase it this weekend, I have 2 really cool bonuses, which I'll also talk about in a minute. So what you can see here, let's see if this, I'm like, how do I present? I was trying to put it in presenter mode, but it's not. There we go. There we go. So what is included? So for people who are dreaming of an international trip, don't know where to start, this is a personalized travel guide, which I am going to create after getting your preferences on about 10 different factors that the guide can be tailored to your style, your budget, and your preferences. And then together, I'm going to use Eartha Weights with those factors to propose 2 different trips. And then from that, we'll meet for 30 minutes and we can talk about which you like. I can show you some of the tools I use to develop the itinerary so that you can continue the planning on your own. And then you can also, have a follow-up call with me if that is necessary. And let me tell you a little bit also about the bonuses. Let's see if it goes. There we go. So for Black Friday, everyone who purchases is going to get access to my travel planning GPT, which is basically a gem. I use Google Gemini, which is an AI agent that I use to plan my trip to Thailand and to Chiang Mai. I have not done my planning for Vietnam and for Malaysia yet. And it's valued at $29. I built it using an AI agent to build a custom gem. So these are architects that can do certain types of planning and advice for you if you have a conversation with it. But you have to build it based on the things that you already know that you like and your background and your budget and things of that nature. And so I've been using this custom GPT. I built it for myself, and then I have a version of it that I've tweaked so that I can put in different factors and inputs and be able to use it for future clients. And so I'm really excited about rolling this out and sharing it with other people. It's been so helpful. It saved me so much time and so much money. Actually, it told me to check on something last week. So I actually have a daily countdown. So for about maybe 2 weeks, I created it a week ago. So 2 weeks ago, it put me on this timeline with a countdown of things I needed to do every day to get ready to leave for Bangkok on December 2nd. So I guess last Friday it told me to do something. I was like, I don't need to do that. I'll fine. I don't need to do that. So on Sunday, I guess something was nagging and I was like, oh, I really need to do this. So I decided to go ahead and do what it told me to do. And I went and checked at the website. It told me to check. I put in what it told me to put in. And sure enough, I was like, oh crap, that is not going to work. So a plan that I had to do something in a certain way on my way to Thailand, I can't do. And I was able to find out a week before so that I can plan a contingency, because Chat GPT put that on a checklist for me. And it's something I, not only would I never thought to do it, even when it told me to do it, I was kind of being resistant and like, I don't need to do that. The good news is there was something else on the list that it told me I don't need to do, that I did need to do, that I was convinced I needed to do, which is actually apply for a visa to stop in Turkey to leave the airport. And come to find out, my gem, my custom gem, was correct. That there isn't a requirement for an e-visa in advance for U.S. citizens who are just doing a stopover. I don't know what the timeline is, but anyway, I meet the criteria. And then the additional bonus, which I'm also excited about, is I'm launching a workshop. This workshop might actually be in December. I put January 2026 in case when I arrive in Bangkok next weekend, I'm like, there's no way in heck I can do this. I need more time. It's actually a workshop that I developed to give a while ago, but just never got around to actually introducing it and promoting it. And so it's a $49 for the general admission and $97 for the VIP, which just allows you to have, a richer, more intimate experience and a call with me. And yeah, so I am making that available complimentary to the first 5 buyers of this custom service that I'm offering. So let me stop sharing here. Let's see if maybe Riverside's going to tell me that it couldn't share that either. Okay, it looks like you were able to see that. Looks like we're fine. So let me check and see if there are any more questions before I log off for the day. Oh, I know what I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to show you how to buy it. So here's the link. If you didn't catch the QR code, this is actually going to be posted on all of my social media networks tomorrow and Friday, or tomorrow or Friday, I should say, maybe both. But I'll put it here for people who are watching the replay. I call it the Start Smarter Travel Guide Service, because I'm basically creating a custom travel guide for you for your 2026 trip. And the nice thing about it is it's going to give you the confidence and the tools to be able to plan from that. It's also a great gift if you know somebody who wants to travel, wants to solo travel, they need a break from you, from them kids, from the family, from the job. It would be a nice holiday offer to give, and I will discuss with you how to package it for your loved ones so that it feels like a gift. So what else do I need to say today? I think we already talked about the bonuses. The bonuses are actually, right now, they're through Sunday, 11:59 p.m. There could be an extension. You know how I feel like every time somebody tells me a bonus is ending, I'm always like, oh, they're going to extend it. They always extend it, but there's a good chance it could get extended. A lot of it depends on how popular it is. So thank you so much for watching today. I didn't have other comments in the audience chat. So I am so grateful for you to be here and for your participation. And I'm excited about this next chapter, my 4th sabbatical. I'm going to get to add at least 4 countries: Turkey, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia, to my list. And on the way home, I'm actually either going back through France or UK, so I won't get to add any new countries to my list. But I love travel. Travel has been life-saving and life-giving and transformative for my mental health, for my physical health. And to be very honest, I really want to see every woman who dreams of traveling internationally achieve her dreams. And I hope that gets to start with you, if you haven't already done so, that you would give it a shot. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.